tight, okay?
Yaya, diamonds, dream chasers, we won't wait. Subscribe today before it's too late. Inspiration flowing just like the breeze. Chase your dreams and feel at ease.
Be good. Be very good.
I've always tried to be good. Always tried to be good. It's difficult. It's difficult, but I'm doing a good job at it. Hey, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is Yaya Diamond, and you're watching or listening to Dream Chasers Radio. And I have an interview today with an amazing author. Yes, an amazing author. I don't even know if he knew he was going to be an author. By the way that this book came about, I'm not really sure if he kind of figured out that he was going to write this book, but this is called Under 80 Hours, an Untold True Crime Story. Get out of the block. I love true crime. So we just have to get with this gentleman, Mr. Scott Crabtree. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. So, okay. All right. Did you know or did you not know? Or was this kind of like, I should write it?
There was a lot of time that's passed since the incident, the Oklahoma City bombing, so I've had 30 years to think about it. I've had numerous people tell me over the course of my career and stuff that knew about it and knew some of the details that I talked about, how things happen and stuff that had always kind of encouraged me to write it. But it was one of those things I kept thinking, well, it's getting longer and longer ago and everything like that. So maybe it wouldn't be quite as, pertinent or interesting or whatever to people right now. But I happened to get a chance to appear in a Netflix special earlier this year,
Nice.
and preparing for that kind of got me back in the mindset of thinking about all the things that had happened, and I got some strong encouragement from the one of the people that I was working with Netflix that they would use very little of what I really was interviewed and taped for, but they thought that I had a bunch of great information that might be valuable to people for people to know. So that's kind of what was the final prodding that I needed, I guess, to sit down last fall and start writing the book.
I got you. I got you. So how did you get involved with this in the first place? What was your particular role in this, if I may ask?
Sure. I'd been in the FBI for quite a long time at that point and was assigned to an office in central Kansas, a one person office. And it just so happened that as the bombing investigation went on during the morning of the bombing back in April 19th of 95, they found out that the truck that had been used for the bombing was a Ryder truck that had been rented out of Junction City, Kansas. And that was a location fairly close to my office. So I got a call to go over there and find what I could about the renters and get all the documents back to the lab back at headquarters so they could test for fingerprints and things like that. So that's kind of the way I got involved, and then it kind of snowballed from there for the next 2 or 3 days with other work that necessarily came after it.
Wow, wow. So, I mean, being the investigator on this crime, being the person that had to go out and see this, I mean, okay, so in a single moment or in that first 4 days you made that investigation, you realized what? Who was responsible, or did you have a lead?
Well, yeah, like I said, the idea was that I would go pick up the documents, and when I got there to do that and interviewed the people at the body shop, Elliott's Body Shop, which was where it was rented out on the Monday prior, uh, I was getting all the information I could from them, and one of the persons that I ended up interviewing was able to give me enough detail that I felt like we could maybe get a sketch that we could then show around. If the person had rented the truck from there, I thought maybe there'd been a chance they'd stayed or they lived in the area or had been in the area, so we might get lucky. So I showed up and did that. Things just kind of rolled from there. We ended up flying a sketch artist in from Washington, D.C. overnight,
Wow.
got sketches the next morning, then took those sketches and I got a bunch of search teams together. We showed the sketches around the Junction City, Kansas area, Fort Riley area, to a number of businesses, and we just got lucky at one of them. Tim McVeigh had stayed there with his with the truck that he drove down to Oklahoma City, and the owner of the place, I think, had some prior experience with him, maybe staying there. But in any case, when we showed her the sketch, she recognized who it was, and for whatever reason, a lucky break on our part, he had actually used his true name and the Nichols address in Michigan for their farm. So that was able to get us into reality where we could actually go out and do something with it. Because up until then, we just we knew we were chasing somebody.
Mhm.
So at that point, we sent the information up to Michigan, Detroit office, and they went out and started doing what they could with it. And then we decided that we'd keep pushing that, but we would keep on moving even if that didn't pan out or whatever.
Mm.
Friday morning, the news came to us. We had done searches from headquarters that had determined that McVeigh had actually been picked up an hour after the bombing by the Highway Patrol there in Oklahoma for driving a vehicle without a license plate, and he also had a concealed weapon on him. So they took him into custody. And another great stroke of luck is that he uh, didn't get to go to the judge to be bonded out on Thursday morning. So by the time they were bringing him in on Friday to bond him out, and he would have been free to go on his own recognizance, just minutes before that, we were able to contact them and say, "Don't let him go." So we got very,
Ooh.
and then our attention turned because of the Nichols connection. We started looking for Terry Nichols, who we'd been determined had been a soldier with him at Fort Riley back in the late 80s. And then we had a lot of effort into trying to locate him, and just in kind of another real quirk is I'm from Harrington, which is where we found Terry Nichols. It's about 35, 40 miles southwest of Junction City in Fort Riley area.
Mhm.
One of the persons that had helped him acquire his house there the month before is an old family friend. And she immediately called when she heard the attorney general discussing his name on the radio that afternoon. And she immediately called and told us where he was at down in Harrington. So things kind of then shifted to Harrington for the rest of that day. We went down and did an interview with him, probably over the span of about 8 hours. We probably talked to him about 6 of those hours,
Mm.
taking breaks and giving him food and that kind of stuff in between. And then after the interview, I was asked to then go down to Wichita, which is where the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Kansas is, and get search warrants to search his house.
Wow.
So we did that overnight on Saturday night, and then on Saturday we brought the search warrant back up to the agents in Harrington. They went and did the search, and then we went and got Terry Nichols, who'd been placed in a local jail up there in Dickinson County, Abilene, Kansas, and we took him down to Wichita to get his initial appearance in front of the judge.
Wow.
Then after that, we came back. So from the point of getting called, probably at 3 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon until about 5 or so on Saturday afternoon, when we finished with his initial appearance, I'd kind of worked straight through to try to make sure that we didn't miss anything and nothing got away from us and everything like that. Because I've found in my career up until that point is that a crime such as this, whether it be a bank robbery or kidnapping or bombing or anything like that, you've got to act fast because the trail can go cold very fast, and evidence kind of go away and everything like that. So
My gosh.
so anyway, by Saturday night we were free to go back and go back home, and then like I said, then we picked up a normal kind of full bureau major case investigation with a bunch of agents from Kansas City that came out. And we went back over everything for the next couple of weeks to make sure that we hadn't missed anything or anything in our previous investigation, and we're able to put a pretty good case together. So, and then after that, as time went on, I went back to my office and worked, and ended up testifying in Denver, well, 3 or 4 or 5 times based on different hearings they had trying to suppress evidence, and then the trials for both McVeigh and Nichols. So, all in all, it was probably about a 3.5, 4 year experience with the case, not full time, but just from start to finish. That's about how long it took. And this book basically encompasses that, and then some after that about some of the lessons I learned from that, how it affected me in the rest of my career.
Wow. Wow. I mean, the pressure, that must have been, wow. I mean, to get everything done, to get this done, the pressure. And so then you sat on it for a little bit. Um, And what was it that clicked in your mind that you got to do this? Was it like that, or was it just I should put a book out? You know, what was it?
You mean in terms of the investigation?
Right. No, in terms of like writing it, like doing the under,
Oh,
yeah. So yeah, like in terms of writing it down, in terms of
okay.
releasing it.
Yeah, and it was like I said, I mean, of course, it's been a long time now. Um, I'd had encouragement almost immediately after that. The agents that had worked in the office with me that knew me and stuff, they said, this will make a great story someday,
Hmm.
and that kind of stuff. And I said, yeah, maybe when my, career's over or something, I'll think about it. But I moved from there. After I transferred, I went to New York and then to Seattle and Washington, D.C. again. Um, so my career kept me very busy. And after about 15 years or 20 years, it became something that was kind of history at that point a little bit.
Hmm.
I'd kind of in my head kind of thought about it, but again, when I got involved with the Netflix special, I shot some footage with them back a year and a half ago. And what, again, kind of a stroke of luck for me to write this story was that I was able to find out that after the trial of McVeigh and Nichols, one of the defense attorneys took all the records from the investigation and the trial that he'd been provided through discovery, and he surrendered them to the University of Texas Library down there in Austin.
Oh wow.
So that's what really allowed me to think that I could actually put the story together
I,
accurately. So
mhm.
I took a trip down there last November. Spent a couple of days going through all the records, making copies of what I thought I needed, and then I brought them back and I went through them all and kind of highlighted them and made some notes. And I thought, I just kind of go through this, and it's going to be more of a, what's the right term? Probably more of a methodical piece about this is how it happened.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of cloak and dagger, a lot of, it was a cold, rainy night type stuff in it, but it's basically the story of, this is what happened. Here's how it happened. Here's the decisions that were made. Here's the things that were going on at the time. Um, and remarkably, after I got into all the documents and I looked at my testimony and the things that I had written up from doing interviews and all that, I was able to kind of basically put myself back in that time. I felt confident when I was writing this book that I was getting probably 95 to 98% of it exactly as it happened. Just it was as an event that as it happened to me, it was very consuming, and having to get ready for every hearing and every trial made you go back and relearn it all again and relive it all again. So this felt like one of those things. It felt like maybe I was getting ready to go and testify or give some kind of a statement or something about it or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
So it put me in a mindset where I thought, okay, I can tell this story honestly and truthfully,
Mhm.
and if I was ever going to do it, this was the time. So that's
Yeah.
when so about a year ago now is when I decided I made the decision and then proceeded forward from there.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Were you at any moment, even now, as you had to relive, this whole, uh, true crime scene and
Hmm.
the whole thing? Were there any emotional attachments that you developed to this particular story or any of your stories? And because people hear, oh, I was so into that it just hurt me. Was it like that for you for this story?
Yeah, it was, and it was. After everything was going on, I knew that the bombing had happened, and I knew that there was going to be a lot of people that would be deceased after it, and then especially listening that there had been a nursery in there where a number of children were also killed. Um, it was all the motivation I needed to go 100 miles an hour as fast as I needed to, as far as I needed to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's always a little angst and a little like feeling of dread or sorrow. Because at the time I was working that I didn't want to let let these guys get away with it if there's anything I could do about it. So like I said, at the time it was really I just knew there was a lot of people, a lot of innocent people that had perished, and I thought
Yeah.
that they deserved whatever attention I could give to them. One time during those first few days, I had my wife come and meet me and bring me some new clothes or bring me some pictures or some newspapers that had pictures in it, and it gave me, put my resolve back up right where it needed to be. I was getting tired, but I decided that, again, it was worth every second that I could spend on this case to make sure that we got the people that were responsible and could bring them into bring them in for justice and let the courts decide, how to go from there. But at least get them identified, get them in hand, and make them have to answer questions for it. So even as I read it now, I mean, it's sad. I mean, you basically just sit there and think about what happened to people that, on a nice, beautiful, April morning in the middle of America, that something like that could happen. It was just
Yeah.
such a shock. Um, it was probably in terms of the case that it probably impacted me like that. I was mostly a white collar crime agent and a cyber agent during my career. So this was kind of one of certainly the biggest case I'd ever worked, but certainly one that had the most, involvement in damage and loss of life and that stuff. So it impacted me so differently than most of my other cases, I had some other fairly large cases, important cases, but nothing like that. And then I happened to be in New York, assigned to New York, but not in New York itself for 9/11. So I was in and around that happening too. And standing at the base of the Oklahoma City building a few days after the bombing, and then standing at the foot of the World Trade Center, a few days after the planes hit it, kind of like greatly impacted my thinking about how I wanted to go forward in my career and what I thought the Bureau needed to change to be able to do. And basically, the Bureau is a great investigative organization, but at that point, I thought maybe we needed to be better about trying to find stuff if we could in advance and prevent it rather than have this kind of destruction and death happen and be able to catch the people after, but it really doesn't after it doesn't do anybody any good really in that sense. It's nice
Yeah.
to know who did it, but it doesn't help the people. So it was a major, like right in the heart of my career. It was a very huge event that shaped me going forward and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for serving. You know what I mean? People don't realize how hard it is and how much you take home with you. You know what I mean? It is.
And
It's got
yeah,
to be difficult. My father was a police officer. I wasn't very close to him because my mom raised me, but he used to tell me how things haunted him at night.
no, I can believe that, and I believe the people that were down there in Oklahoma City itself they were trying to get through the rubble and get to the people that were still alive and tried to save as many of them as they could. That experience is even something that I don't think I can even fathom how they felt and how it's impacted them. So, I mean, I felt such a sense of urgency, but it was knowing the fact that it had happened and knowing that the people deserved, the justice. But it certainly wasn't dealing with anything like that. Mine was basically, like I said, I was away from it, but I knew the weight of what was going on, and I knew that was important. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I didn't have quite that kind of a thing where I had to deal with thinking about, having to dig through the rubble and everything.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I appreciate this. I appreciate the history that you've written down. I appreciate that you've gone on TV and that you're talking about it. The one thing that we should never do is suppress history because then it continually repeats itself. We need to remember
Absolutely,
what these things. So definitely.
absolutely.
Is there anything that we missed today? Any question that you would like to ask or ask me or ask your listeners to do, or even to say something about this book and how it might help other people to get through that time?
I think if people look at this book, it is a part of the puzzle that has never really been known before. There's been a number of books written about this and about the event and about Tim McVeigh and Terry Nichols and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But the things that where we advanced from the bombing happened on Wednesday morning, just after 9, until having both of the primary subjects in custody, and knowing the third subject that would eventually plead guilty by Saturday night. How we
Mm.
got in those 80 hours, how we got there, and what was the process that allowed us to respond so quickly, and how everything fell into place, and how there was a great deal of luck or some kind of maybe intervention or something that allowed it all to happen,
Yeah,
because there was a number of things that could have happened just very minutely different that maybe we wouldn't have had them, and maybe we'd still be looking for them today. Who knows? But I think if you're interested in that particular event and reading about it and seeing what happened, this is just like a piece that's toward the start of that whole story that kind of says, okay, this happened, and here's how we got to the point where we had him in custody, and then we're able to work from there. So, if there is a good true crime aspect to it, how we did the investigation and how it was conducted, and then how it fits in the whole puzzle of this happened to the point where they were both convicted. So, um, if people are looking to kind of fill in that gap, I think this book will certainly do it for them. And it might also give people an idea that this is what, as a agent or as an investigator, maybe even a detective or anybody else, you never know when you go to work in the morning what kind of case you're going to get and where that's going to take you, and how you can be prepared to be able to work whatever comes to you. And so maybe in the sense that maybe people would be interested. Geez, I wonder what being like an agent would be like, or being like an investigator would be like. This kind of gives you that idea of that. At least in my job, being a white collar agent, most of the work is, I'm not going to say it's boredom and tedium, but you're going through records and you're doing spreadsheets and you're putting stuff together and you're trying to, track financial trails. And that can be very, kind of mundane work. And then all of a sudden you get a call that, hey, there's been a bank robbery and you have to go respond, or there's been a kidnapping, you have to go respond, or there's been a bombing like this, you have to go respond, and how you have to switch gears and everything like that, and how that, makes it gives you a very wide perspective of the whole, the criminal investigative, arena. And if somebody thinks, hey, I might want to be an investigator, there might be something in here for them. If they read it, they think that, oh, well, here's how I have a good chance of maybe becoming that type of a, person, or that get that type of a role for a job, or, this is how these things shake out. And if I, see something else on TV, I'll kind of understand a little bit, this is the process, or that kind of thing. So again, it's more of a chronological story of what happened. And it's probably as much as a reference material as it is something you just pick up for enjoyment, but it does fill the gap. And if somebody's interested in that, I think they'll enjoy it.
I think so too. And history. You got to know your history. You got to know what happened. And for the most part, I had no idea that this, like you said, this is one of those things that no one ever really said. This is the other part of it. And if you're really truly interested in the other part and you want the full story, then you need to go ahead and check this book out. It is called Under 80 Hours, an Untold True Crime Story. And it's by Mr. Scott Crabtree. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I
Wow.
appreciate you.
I'm
Thank you very much
glad
for having
caught that guy.
me. I
Oh,
am too. They needed it, and like I said, everything seemed to work out like it was supposed to make it happen. So we'll certainly take that, because it doesn't
def-
always happen that way.
well, I'm glad it did, because no one should be doing stuff like that. That is just,
Yep,
it's evil. It's
yep,
definitely
it
evil.
is pure evil. Yep,
Pure. Thank you so much, Mr. Crabtree.
but
And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to have that book link in the description box wherever you may be watching, so that it'll be easy for you guys to go ahead and get it. Remember, history should never be repeated, but if you forget it, you're doomed to do so. So please go ahead and grab that book today if that's something that you're interested in. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different. Mr. Crabtree, again, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
sure. Thank you very much again. Have a
All
good rest of the day. Yep.
right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
My gosh. So, if you guys have ever heard of the bombings, so these bombings here, I'm going to go ahead and put this out front. But the book is called Under 80 Hours, an Untold True Crime Story. At 9:02 a.m. on April 19th, 1995, a massive explosion rocked downtown Oklahoma City, shearing off the front of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building and killing 168 people, including 19 children in the building's daycare center. The blast sent shockwaves across the country, both literally and figuratively. In the chaos that followed, investigators shift through the rubble, finding a twisted fragment of a Ryder rental truck. Using it as a starting point, the FBI identified and arrested the individuals who planned to and executed this heinous crime in less than 4 days. I have one of the FBI agents right here, Mr. R. Scott Crabtree, that is going to be here today to talk about how they were able to get this gentleman, arrest him, and someone else apparently, in under 80 hours. Enjoy the show. Da, da, Thank you for watching.